Today we're in Cork at the historic site of the Kilmichael Ambush. This is where 36 local IRA volunteers, commanded by Tom Barry, killed 16 members of the Royal Irish Constabulary's Auxiliary Division. The Black and Tans got sent over to Ireland and they were just causing absolute havoc. And they were torturing people, killing people, burning down towns and all that sort of stuff. And Tom Barry and his men said, look, we have to do something about it. So they decided that they were going to mount an ambush. And this is the spot where they picked for the ambush. People don't realise back in the day there was a number of different Crown forces, but collectively they're known today as the Black and Tans, and I refer to them continually as the Black and Tans, but it's actually the Auxiliary Division who were involved in this attack. Tom came over here on horseback a day or a couple of days beforehand, and he realised that this was the perfect spot for it, because as you look down there the road bends. It bends so much that the trucks had to stop. Each day the Black and Tans, they were leaving their base here, heading down this way, and they had to come back in the evening time. So they decided to mount an ambush down here. I just don't know how the man had the foresight to envisage that they could do what they done here. The groups were broken down into the command post and 4 other groups. Each group was called a section. So command post, West Cork Brigade, flying column, IRA, and on this road too died 17 terrorist officers of the British forces on the 28th of November 1920. Flying column came over here in the middle of the night and they parked themselves up here. Well, they set up shop here. So imagine what it's like here on the 28th of November. Jesus, freezing, right? I think there was 3 or 4 lads here behind this wall. If there wasn't a swamp in there, I'd jump in now, right? As the signal was given, Tom Barry got out here on his own and he walked up here. So he had a whole team of men at his disposal, and he decided that he was going to do it. He stopped here, and as the truck came around the corner, he was in his full uniform. He had a grenade and he threw the grenade at the truck, and the truck was an open cab, right? And the grenade landed almost in the lap of the driver and it killed him instantly. When I was here the last time, I'm like, right, how far exactly did he throw the grenade? And I'm looking for the stone and I'm like, right, could I get this stone in someone's lap from here? He said, don't fire until you hear my signal. So he threw the grenade and he blew the whistle, and I believe he jumped back in here. They almost annihilated him instantly because they had the element of surprise. And with that then, the second truck came around the corner. There was between 8 and 10, not too sure the exact number, Black and Tans in the second truck, but the volunteers had lost the element of surprise. The column up on both sides of the roads up here were engaged with that truck full of Black and Tans, and the first truck, they were literally obliterated. Everybody was killed. So Tom Barry summons the men from over here and up here, and they come down here and they're marching up the road. There was also talk that the Black and Tans tried to surrender, and Tom Barry and his men just didn't accept the surrender and shot them all. But it was a false surrender. Black and Tan said, right, we surrender. One of the volunteers stood up to accept the surrender, and another Black and Tan shot. And when Tom's saying that, he said, do not accept any surrender. Keep forward until I tell you to stop. They've engaged this truck, cleared the objective here, and they're going up the road here. And the Black and Tans are hiding under the truck. There's one of them in the ditch over there, and they're engaging back and forth with the lads in the ditches and up on the hill there. And Tom Barry's coming up here. We'll go up here and you can actually see the location of where the volunteers were lying in wait, and it gives a good little explainer because you can't access where this section of men was over here. It's a very important part of Irish history. It's a part of our heritage. It's a part of our culture. But I just don't know why these events aren't marked more throughout the whole country. Go through London on an open top bus and you see all these memorials they have all over the city. Why do we not have more of this in this smashing little country? Something that I do fairly regularly is I notice all these little markers and posts all around the city and all around the country where it just says such a person was killed here, such a person was killed there. These things should be highlighted more in my view. So each of these wooden posts represents where one of the volunteers was lying in wait. Sitting in the winter rain, freezing the bejesus out themselves. No Gore-Tex jackets, no windproof hiking gear back in them days. Just an overcoat and a paddy cap. And they were about to make history. So as you look over there, you can see where the command post was. We're section 1, and over there is the next section. There's a lad here and he was half digging, half sweeping, half looking, doing a little job over there. So I says, you know what? He looks like a man that has local knowledge, so I'm going to go over and chat to him. And his first name was Dennis, and they call him Denny. And he starts explaining to me what happened.
Ambush happened here, around 4 o'clock in the evening. They just south there at the command post was the first lorry that was attacked by Tom Barry himself. The second lorry came after a small bit and realised what was happening.
Yes.
And they tried to turn, and they got stuck. Not in a kind of a bog, and when all the auxiliaries were killed south there, but the guys not here got a chance of going out of the truck, but they didn't get. They were all attacked except for Guthrie. Cecil Guthrie, he escaped alongside the bog and went all the ways over. He lost his gun, and he got as far as Inahale, where he was picked up by the local IRA there, and he was court-martialed there, and he was shot there.
So does that mean all the auxiliaries were killed, or did any of them escape?
All of them were killed here, except for Cecil Guthrie, who escaped, but he was eventually captured
so the
and
one
killed.
that got, so none of them got away?
None of them got away, no. One of them did survive. He lay among the dead here,
right?
But he was paralysed. So
right.
he was, I think he was paralysed from the waist down or the neck down, some of the two, but he survived for a good while after.
This house up here is where Denny actually lives, and it was his great aunt's house. The Black and Tans burnt that house down. His great aunt looked down on the day, and she seen the volunteers getting into position, and she seen them there all day, and she knew there was something going on, but she didn't ask. She brought them down, as he called it, a bucket of tea and a bastable cake. When the attack happened, they knew that the Black and Tans were going to come out and they were going to get revenge. And they burnt that house, and I believe this house here they burnt down as well. This house is in your family for?
Oh my God, it is in my family with I'd say 3 or 4 generations in here, like that. So,
so what was your aunt's name? Or your grand aunt?
She was Margaret O'Donoghue.
So, and she came down?
She came down along with 2 more other women. They came down, they poked out as much tea and bread, vegetable cake, they're saying.
What's a vegetable cake?
It's a kind of it's a cake that was made in the old oven years ago, like that, in the old pots. There was a pot called a vegetable pan, and they was make a cake inside. It was the same as a brown cake, on it was the whole way it was made like that.
So she brought it down to feed the lads because she seen the lads were here.
Yeah. I'd say they were kind of warned that there could be a bit of activity on the day. Yeah. So a lot of the local men in there, he kind of disappeared, and the women hung around, and I suppose then the following day, then there were the auxiliaries. When these crowd didn't get into Macroom, they knew there was something up. They thought they were delayed or something like that, like, but they came on the road, and the next thing they came across a few dead bodies here, and as they went south along, they found more dead bodies, and they were raging. So the 2 local houses in the area were burned. And
your house included?
My house included, yeah.
Which is what your grand aunt lived there?
Which was my grand aunt and my grandfather at the time. They were all only about in there. And there were more grand aunts as well. They were all kind of living there. They were all about their 20s. And I've been 20 and 30 and like that. So what we were told anyway was that they were in the field above the house, looking down over the ditch, watching their house burnt.
They were looking at their own house getting burnt?
Because when they burned, as far as I know, I think they burned Kelly's house over first.
Which is this one just here, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, so the 2 of them got burnt.
And they came up to this house and burned the house and burned the stack of hay. And
there was another house somewhere just around the corner here. I can't actually remember what it was, but they didn't burn it down because the woman that lived there was a widow and her husband had only died. But when they knew what was happening here, all the men left the house straight away, and they couldn't come back for a few days because they knew that the Black and Tans would be looking for revenge. But it's great when you hear something firsthand from somebody who has the local knowledge, you know. The command post and the first group of lads there that were stationed on both sides of the roads had basically finished off all the Black and Tans that were in the first truck. The second truck come around, seeing what had happened, stopped, knew they were under attack. We had section 2, as they call it, was here. And section 3 was another section up further here. And these guys were here to protect against a third truck coming down, but there was never actually a third truck. These guys here had a much tougher fight because the lads up here had the element of surprise. There was no surprise here. This is where the false surrender occurred. This is where the group of lads, the volunteers coming up here, see these guys exchanging fire. They see the surrender happening. They see this man over here standing up to accept the surrender. They see the other black and tans shooting him, killing him. And that's when Tom said, don't stop firing until I tell you. And after a few minutes then, it was all over. One of the black and tans escaped and he was caught further down the road by a local IRA unit, and they executed him. They knew who he was. And one guy survived. I believe he was actually paralysed or something serious happening from the injuries he suffered. But we'll go up here and we'll have a look at this. This is what, section 3 is what they call these group of lads that were here. The IRA man, they were like literally training with holy sticks. They didn't have that many weapons, they didn't have anything at all. The volunteer that stood up to accept the surrender, Jim O'Sullivan, the cross marks the spot where he died, he stood up to accept the surrender. So there's 2 posts here, so obviously 2 volunteers here. The black and tans are surrendering, and one of them shot him, which is the lowest of the low. Probably where the plaque is right now is where the second truck would have stopped. But I wonder what sort of experience Jim O'Sullivan had in comparison to the rest of the guys. Was he not as experienced in this sort of stuff, and that's what made him stand up a little bit sooner than the other guys, and unfortunately he was killed there. Back then, the British Empire ruled 2/3 of the world. These guys with their holy sticks and paddy caps thought that it was actually going to be possible for them to defeat that empire, which is absolutely crazy. The Brits had been here for 700 years at that time. What made them think that they were going to be the special ones? You know, there's so many people before them. There's the Flight of the Earls, the Fenians, the boys in 1916, the United Irishmen. I'm sure we're forgetting a few more people as well there. They were willing to think big enough. They were willing to think that they could do it, you know. And pretty much all the weaponry that they had came from the Brits, because they basically stole it from the barracks. In a lot of cases, at the start of the War of Independence, it was an arms raid as opposed to getting out to kill as many of them as possible. And then things got a little bit more vicious as time went on. 1919 was a fairly tame affair in comparison to 1920, because it was all out war then. And then by the middle of 1921, a truce was asked for, you know, and then that gave rise to the next chapter of Irish history. If you read some of the accounts of what happened after and all, like the men were all like physically shaken, like they just had probably the first engagement of their life, you know. Tom Barry got them on the road, he burned the 2 trucks, pulled the bodies to one side, took all the ammunition and arms, and he had them marching up and down the road until they gained their composure. I wish I knew a bit more about the geography of this land. I think I need to get a map out and just go through it. It was a very important part, because this then kind of galvanised the war. That this was the first large-scale attack on the Brits since the war had started, because it had all been hit and run tactics, and a lot of the attacks up until then had been attacks on the RIC barracks just to collect arms. But this was the first large-scale ambush assault, and it was a success. So it was all over the news the next day, and it kind of put Ireland on the map as a country that needs to be taken serious, as an oppressed country, that the British were the occupiers and they needed to be dealt with. And then that's it, you know, the ball was set in motion then. And I think this was only the first of many daring escapades of this flying column.